I want you to choose one area of your life that you're happy with. Choose one area of your life that is where you want it to be, or as close to where you want it to be as possible. So choose one area of your life that you're happy with. Be it your career, it could be your relationship, it could be your health, your fitness. Choose one area of your life that you are happy with. You ever got a pen and paper? Feel free to get a pen and paper, or you can make a mental note of it. Yet choose one area of your life that you're happy with. Now, having done that, take a moment to think. Throughout your life, you'll have been setting goals, one way or the other. Whether you set goals subconsciously or consciously, whether you sit down and write it down what you want to achieve, or whether you unconsciously set your sights on something. So, for example, as a baby, you first learn to walk, and on an unconscious level is the goal. You see people walking around you, and you think unconsciously, or at least consciously to a point, you have that goal, and then you talk, and then consciously you set goals to ride a bike, maybe go for your driving lesson. So you might not write it down, but through your life you've been setting goals, one whatever, whether you do it on autopilot, you roll at uni and progression, whether you sit down and write things down consciously, and you're consciously aware of it by writing it down, one way or the other, throughout your life you'll have been setting goals. So this evening we're going to focus on the approach, the laser approach. Now, the laser approach I use to goal setting is a very, very powerful approach. I've been using this laser approach for many years, and I've been using this approach for many people across a broad range of areas. I've been using the approach with some of the best business people in the world, with some of the best athletes and sports people, and just people in general looking to achieve goals, be it weight reduction, fitness, health. On my journey of being a coach and so on and so forth, I've used this approach with many, many people, thousands of people around the world, and in seminars too, and I use it for myself too. It's a very focused way, a real focused way of getting where you are to where you want to be. So, where you are to where you want to be. Now, as you reflect on the question asked you earlier, choose an area of your life that you're happy with. Why are you happy with that area of your life? Why are you happy with that area of your life? Now, take a moment to think, because at first, it might take a bit of time to reflect on things, and just take a moment to think. Or, in the past, if you've been happy in an area of your life, just take a moment to think what it was and why you were happy, what it was you were happy about and why. It'd be safe to say that one of the reasons that you were happy in that area, or are happy in that area of your life, is because it's met an expectation or gone beyond expectation. It's gone beyond an expectation. If we meet our expectations in life or exceed expectations in life, then generally we're pretty happy or at bare minimum content. If we meet or exceed expectation. Now, throughout life we've got many expectations on various levels. Some of these expectations have been passed to us through values and beliefs, and people have expectations of graduating from uni, getting a job, finding a partner, finding a place, and people have the expectations in life, don't they? Not always, all the time, these expectations are met. There are certain times things are beyond your control. So you could have a goal, and you could be cruising along and things are going really, really well, and life being the way it is, you get blown off course. So we've got to be philosophical about things. I believe that we are where we need to be at any given period of time. So when I write goals, I do the laser approach, I write on the basis that we pursue the goal, it's the journey, not necessarily the destination. The goal's great, don't get me wrong, you've got that goal, and whether it's that house you want or that car you want, or it could be to write a book, or get in shape, or whatever you've got as a goal, it's fantastic to achieve the goal, to be the weight you want to be, to write that book, to the career, that relationship. It's good achieving it. If not more important, is the journey. So the person you grow into. And think about who you want to be in different areas of your life. Think about the person you want to grow into. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Take a moment to think, well, who do you want to be and what do you want? What do you want out of life, and what do you want in different areas of your life? Now, that's a big call, and we don't have enough time to go through it in too much detail in this seminar. Yet, if you've been to my inner purpose and alignment seminars, and you can email me, I'll give you some resources if you want to. It makes a lot of sense to elicit your values, your drivers, and use them as a map to where you want to go. Tonight we won't be doing that. We did that in the previous seminar. I've got some notes around there. I can email you. Even if you haven't been to that seminar, watch that seminar. Tonight will be quite useful for you to transfer the skills in different areas of your life. Or you can just use the skills to map out goals on various levels if you choose to. Yet it does make a lot of sense to me to understand ourselves. Understand what's driving us when we set goals. Understand what is our drives. One way of doing that, we can do that through eliciting our values. The elicitation of values. What drives you? What's important to you at a deeper structure level? You think about it, the way we communicate linguistically is very minimal. From a communication point of view, just a 5-second experience. Just an experience of me walking outside to the post box and getting some mail. If I had to express that linguistically, it would take me hours if I had to go into all the detail in terms of the way I process that the way all the filters I have, the way I internalize information through our generalization, deletion, distortion. So it would take forever. Our representation systems, our values, our beliefs, all these things, and all the way we process information on an unconscious level would take. So what we want to do at some point is understand ourselves better, get a better understanding of ourselves. So this makes sense to me to get a map of what drives us, what we want, and at least see if what we want is taking us where we want to be. Now going forward this evening, I've got a great approach. The LASER approach is an acronym. So I'm going to guide you through the approach. It's a very powerful approach, and step by step. So if you've got a pen, it might be worth getting a pen. It's entirely up to you. If you've got a pen, great, play ball. If you don't want to write anything down and you want to take a mental note of it, if you want to come back and watch this again, the seminar, it's entirely up to you. It's your call. But I'm going to guide you through it. The LASER acronym, it's a really powerful one. Now, I've had the privilege of working for many, many years with many people around the world. Many years around the world, across a broad range of areas. And I've been quite fortunate to have experience working with people at the highest level in sport, in business. I've traveled doing seminars everywhere. And I've written some best-selling books, and I've done things in sport. I've won stuff in sport, and I've been very privileged to talk at seminars with other speakers who are high profile, learn from them. And I've been very privileged to have some good mentors as well. Now, I say that because for me, it wasn't always the way. It wasn't always the way. My own life experience, one of the things that took me to this world of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and personal development, and hypnotherapy, and all these things was my own challenges I went through as a young person, as a teenager. You know, I grew up as a teenager at certain points in my teenage years, literally in poverty. We'd go for days without food, and it was pretty tough going. And I had very severe asthma. Very severe asthma as a child and as a teenager. And with that severe asthma, and the struggles we had financially as a family, and all these things that were going on, it wasn't always easy. And I would eventually work in a factory at about 14 years of age. I missed a lot of time from school, making ends meet. And it was a tough job in factory I was working in, did some work in factory. It was long hours. Some hours were like 12 hours in a day. It was tough going and very laborious work. Yet I, at that point in my life, realised there's something more. Now, I'm not undermining people who work in factories, and great people, salt of the earth people, phenomenal people. For me, I just felt there was something more out there for me. And I had talent as a sports person, so one of my dreams was to become an international sports person. Now, I had to overcome many challenges, and one of the things I did as a 17-year-old, which really served me well, was I saw the value in education, not just academic education, because I wasn't great academically. Through a lot of time I missed the school, the value in learning from people who are where I want to be, or at least could give me some insight to what I could achieve. And at 17 years of age, or thereabouts, I saved up enough money to see the motivational speaker you've probably come across before, Tony Robbins. And for me, it was an enlightenment. I went to the seminar about 17 years of age. I saved a lot of money to go see him, and we didn't have money at all, and I saved up a lot of money. It was one of the most priceless investments that I'd put money into because I got a lot out of it. I started believing that all things are possible, and I saw a more developed world. I saw a different world to the world I grew up in. I thought, well, actually, I'll have a bit of that, and that led me to hire a coach. I'd fund this coach who'd help me athletically. He had an NLP Hypnotherapy background, and I became really interested in that area, and eventually I would outgrow and overcome the asthma, and I would go on to compete. And I think my mindset, in my opinion anyway, had a lot to do with that, because I got to a point in my life where I'd gone in and out of hospitals with asthma and so on and so forth, and I was even having allergen shots every week. And I thought, well, you know what, if I'm going in and out of hospitals anyway, and this stuff, obviously medicine is important, I'm not medically qualified to make a comment on that, but for me I felt, okay, mindset too. Now, I know things like asthma, we can outgrow it, and I know there's many other things, and I'm not going into the medical side of things, but for me, my mindset was, I really focused, okay, I want to become a sports person, and even though I was told it'd be a good idea to give up playing at that level, because obviously I ran the risk of asthma, I felt in my mind, it's really what I want to do. It's my way out of the situation I'm in, because I didn't have any education at that level, any significant education academically. I couldn't get into any uni, any college, nothing like that, and I didn't see myself at that point working in the factory for the rest of my life, albeit great people in that environment. I just felt I could do more. So I used some of these processes at a very early age, and I've shared these over many, many years, and it's not easy as a 14-year-old, the issues that we faced, and my mum was ill and my dad got injured at work and we had no money, and I had to find ways and had to find a way. And that's why I really think it's important for young people to do work experience in school, and we should give young people things like entrepreneurial skills, and we should update the education system and teach them the value of working, because I understood the value of working and the value of investing in myself. And one way I would invest in myself is for education, because education for me was going to take me to where I wanted to go. Now, I remember being my first experience in university. I sort of told with the idea where I grew up in Sydney, and my priority was my own sports career. And eventually I was in Loughborough, sitting down at Loughborough University in the UK, and I had work. I was working as well, working as a conditioning coach and a coach and an NLP coach as well, and I was also doing sport full-time, and I'm sitting there at Loughborough, and the irony was that I didn't even know the alphabet. I was at uni, there was a group of academics, I was studying sports performance conditioning. I didn't even know a noun or a verb. I had very limited knowledge educationally, and I grew up in an environment, missed a lot of school, and my English wasn't my first language. We were a migrant family, so it was pretty tough going, and I felt daunted. I felt really daunted in this environment where there are academics, and here's me. And I remember once having a word to one of the lecturers, and I told him my plight. I said to him my plight, and he said to me, you know what, you've done a lot of the hard work, you've got to where you are through sheer determination. And those words really stuck by me. I realised, you know what, I can get my head down and focus. I got through the course, and that's when my lifelong learning, that's when my commitment to lifelong learning really came about. You know, since then, since about 23, or even earlier than then, because I'd studied other stuff earlier than then, and for all those years, for over 20 years now, I spent a minimum 2 hours a day learning, whether it's studying a course, whether it's studying a workshop. Minimum. I've studied things like NLP, CBT, fitness, coaching, physiology, teaching, psychology, loads, and I have a thirst for knowledge. You know, I make it my job to spend at least two hours a day, and have done for all those years. And learning is growth for me, and I've got a big commitment to lifelong learning. And these days it's a lot easier than it used to be, because you can do stuff online, and it wasn't the case when I was in my 20s anyway. And things have changed a lot since then. Obviously, it's a long time since then, and you can access stuff now, and it's a lot easier. You can do it to come to your own home. I still see the value in going to events. I think it's really important to go to places in person, because you get a much more powerful experience, I think, in my opinion. Yet in saying that, learning in your own comfort as well is quite useful too. So for me, that lifelong learning put me in good stead, and it was really, really important for me to do that. And I obviously still do it now, and I still take time every day, at least 2 hours every day, to learn something new, and do courses and I'm studying now. I'm doing a course now at a university, and people go to seminars. People see me. Some of my students see me at seminars, like Tony Robbins seminar or a Bandler seminar, or whatever really. Travel out to Arizona. One of my mentors, Jeffrey Zeig, learn from him and do masterclass with him. Learning all the time, so it's really important, and I think it's so key to learn and engage in learning to grow. And when people see me at these seminars and courses, students I teach say, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing here? With all the experience you've got?" Because you're always learning, and even if I know the stuff, even if I've done the stuff a million times before, it's reinforcing, but seeing from a different angle. But it's really important to choose the right people to mentor you. I mean, I go to a public speaking group, and the public speaking group that I go to, Toastmasters, is quite powerful because you've got people who've got like-minded who want to improve themselves. And I think proximity is power. Your network is your net worth. The people you associate with are really important. And the reason I draw attention to that, and I talk about that, is because today's seminar is about creating a vision for your life. Creating a vision. You know, the vision starts with a seed. It's like planting a seed in the ground, and then the tree blossoms, or planting seeds, and you harvest, and we create a vision, and we're not in control of a lot of things, and all we can do is plant our seed and water it and soil it and do the very best we can. And life being the way it is, sometimes, you know, the birds and locusts will destroy your plantations, things happen beyond your control. So things that happen beyond our control, so the reason I say that is because all we can do is set our pathway and go forward and go out there and learn from people, as many people as we can do. And I think it's really important, learning. Yeah, definitely I love to study courses, have done for a long time, done many studies, and also learning from people. Like when I was in Arizona recently, doing some learning with my mentor Jeffrey Zeig, who set the Erickson Foundation, and I'm doing some learning through him, and I was doing some seminars on my own in America too. I took the time to go to places like the Olympic Center in San Diego to speak to people and learn from them. So I'd walk around, learn, and speak to athletes, and I'd get into their minds, and I'd learn and ask them questions. I'd ask them NLP, neuro-linguistic programming modeling questions to learn how they achieve excellence. And it was great. I met some wonderful people, and I remember one day, on one occasion, one of the things, learning programs I was on, Dr. Jeffrey Zeig said to me, he goes, "You've asked me a modeling question." I said, "Yeah, I have, because I want to model the best. I want to model the best. I mean, you trained under Bill Erickson, set foundation up. I'd be crazy not to." And when I was at the Olympic Training Center, I got access to some, you know, great athletes who were very kind to teach me, because we're always learning. And some of the stuff I knew, I've learned for a long time, but the things that reinforce knowledge, and also you pick up little things, because it can be a millimeter that makes the difference. So for me, it's really important to do that and learn across a broad range of areas. And I watch speakers and go to retreats and learn stuff and learn many things from people, because we want to keep growing. We want to keep the vitality going, learning new things. It's really important. And when I go to and speak at events like the big expos I speak at and the big conferences, I'll always sit down and watch other speakers too and learn from them. You know, for example, at the expo last year, the Best U Expo last year I spoke at, I'm speaking again next year. I went to watch people like Sir Clive Woodward speak, and he was great to watch speak, and I learned from him. Then I went up to him afterwards when he spoke and spoke to him in as much as I could speak to him, because he was busy and a lot of people wanted to speak to him as well. Yet I thought, well, I've got a few moments to speak to him. I'm going to ask him some questions to get into his mind. He's a guy that's won a World Cup as a coach in rugby. I'm going to learn something from him. So I'm thinking questions-wise, what can I ask him? And I put that out to you. In your own journey, when you set your goals, find people who are where you want to go or where you want to be, and immerse yourself around that. Find people. Your network is your net worth. Your proximity is power. It's not as easy, because we've got people in our life, in our family, that might not endorse our goals and might not be there and might not think that what we want is the right thing. But ultimately, in the end, we've got to make the effort. So, for me, I talked about my own journey earlier, very briefly, not to brag, because if you know me, and those of you watching it that know me, I'm not a bragging person. I don't care too much to make an issue out of anything. I only mention it because I sort of demonstrate to people when I talk in schools, and one of my ambitions was to talk in schools and talk to young people, because having had many challenges myself, growing up, I felt that it only takes someone to give you some belief, and anything's possible to be achieved. And there's a lot of young people out there, a lot of talented people out there that won't realise their talent. And they won't realise their talent because they don't have that belief, they don't have that person, that mentor. So I make the effort to go in there and share some of my stories, because it could just spark something in their mind to realise that we're capable of things that we could never imagine, and we've got one life in this genetic form. I mean, life is not permanent. In this genetic form, at least anyway, this is it. There's never been a you, there's no other you in the world, there'll never be another you. This is showtime, and all the stuff people get caught up in, and all the things that they do, and you think it's just really not worth it sometimes. You've got to just go forward and do the best you can with what you've got, and absorb and seize every moment in life, really seize the moment in life. And in my life, going back at school, no one would ever imagine I'd go on to write 3 best-selling books and a number of resource manuals, and I'd work on radio, study all the courses I've studied over a long period of time, all the things I've wrote, the conferences I've spoken to, the things I've won in sport, and the people I've helped across a broad range of areas, people I've helped in business, in sport, in therapy as well. I've helped people. No one would have imagined that at school, yet for me, one of the turning points I said earlier was actually going to a seminar and seeing someone like Tony Robbins, and thinking, you know what, that sparked a fire in me. I had this realization, well, actually, you know what, there's a better world out there. So I consciously started writing goals. So I'm going to share with you a technique, a really powerful technique this evening, called the laser approach I use. It's the laser approach that I use with my clients to help them go from where they are to where they want to be. And I really think a life in meaning is important. And I read a book once. I read this book by Dr. Viktor Frankl. If you haven't read it, I recommend reading it. It's a fantastic read. And he talks about man's search for meaning. He talks about how the life of meaning, and to cut a long story short, the book's about, when he shares his story, he was Jewish at the time of the Nazi occupation in World War II, and he talks about how he was a prisoner in the war camp. And he says one of the things that kept him going was he thought at some point he might see his wife again, because she got taken prisoner too. And the years have gone on, he suffered these horrendous atrocities you could never imagine, the horrendous atrocities he suffered. And he talked about the hope of seeing his wife again. And he talked about in the book how the strongest people, the ones who survived, weren't necessarily the strongest physically, they weren't necessarily the most intellectual, they weren't necessarily a combination of both. The ones that had the meaning, the desire, the meaning to live and survive. And his meaning was the why he'd see her again. When he got released from the prison camp, he found out his wife had been passed away. And at that point, these are my words, not his words, my understanding of the book, I recommend you read it. And he says at that point he considered ending it. And he felt that if he did that, then he'd miss the opportunity to share his experience with people. And he'd gone on to become one of the most prolific psychiatrists and so on and so forth. And his meaning was then directed towards sharing this experience with people. And by sharing it, it can open people into an insight, really, and an understanding, and things that are important to learn, because history doesn't always repeat, but it rhymes. These sort of things you think we can learn and grow as people, and make sure these things don't happen again, because really we're in it together, we're all connected on some level, so we're all in it together. And I truly believe if you treat people like your family, we all treated each other with more compassion and kindness, the world will be a better place. And there's a lot of good people out there, yet I think as a world we've got a long way to go. Yeah, that's another story for another day. So let's get back to the acronym, the laser approach. There's an acronym. The first thing is the L. So I want to choose a goal now. Choose an area of your life. It could be career, relationship, academic, health. You might want to play an instrument, a book, a course. You're not counting anything you don't want to do. It's an exercise. Choose an area of your life. If you play ball, it will make it easier to do the seminar. So choose an area of your life, and we'll start with the acronym. Choose an area of your life. Okay, academic, relationship, health, career, whatever, your call. You might want to write a book. And what we do, first of all, the L is for list it. List what you want. And you can transfer this across other areas of your life if you want to. It's your call. You can transfer this across other areas of your life if you want to. It's entirely up to you. For now, we'll focus on one area because of time. You can watch this again and apply it to different areas if you choose to. So list what you want in a positive way. I don't mean positive, very, very positive, Pollyanna, the world's a wonderful place and life's a bed of roses. I mean positive in the mind doesn't process the negative instruction really, really well. So if I say don't think of a blue giraffe, what do you think of? Precisely. So what you want. List what you want. So if there's a house that you want, the house might be a 5-bedroom house in the countryside near a lake, a certain colour walls, and so on and so forth, with a swing in the background and a pond and with a certain type of fence. Give the mind clarity. Clarity is power. Or it could be you want a certain type of car, a model car. It might be you want a BMW or an Audi or whatever you want, year that you want the car to be. Or it could be a relationship. The sort of person you want in a personal relationship, their values, the way they look, and so on and so forth. It could be a health goal. It might be you want a certain weight. So for example, you want to be, I don't know what the weight is these days, you want to be, so it could be you're going to be 12 stone and a certain size, dress and suit. So the more specific you are, the better it is. And it could be that you want to play an instrument or write a book, and a best-selling book, or just write a book, for example. It's entirely your call. But list what you want. That's the first thing we do in the acronym, to cut through like a laser towards where you want to go. So list what you want. Okay? Once you've done that, and you've listed what you want, the next part of the acronym, okay? The next part of the acronym that we work on is the A, okay? And the A. And when you think about it this way, and look at it this way, think about our emotions, and think about the quality of our emotion, and think about how we're more likely to achieve our goal if we're in a good emotional state and can maintain that state emotionally. So what I want you to do as we proceed through the exercise is I want you to go to a place of gratitude before we do the A. And I want you to be grateful for what you have. So I want you to close your eyes. If you come to closing your eyes, perhaps you'd like to close your eyes to block out the outside world. And before we sort of go to the A, which is attainable, let's go to a place of gratitude. Let's go to a place of gratitude. And I want you to reflect and feel, really feel it. What are you grateful in your life right now? It could be family, friends, having a roof over your head, a job, your health, or maybe all of those things. If you're finding it hard to be grateful, what can you say thank you for? And remember that we sometimes take things for granted. We don't realise we had until it's gotten away. So go to that place of gratitude, okay, and really feel it. Feel that gratitude. Feel that gratitude. Okay, fantastic. And then just shake yourself off, open your eyes, come back to the here and now. So the A, for me, in the acronym, is for attainable. Okay? And I think it's really important, if we don't do the gratitude before the exercise, at some point during the exercise, it's good to go to that place of gratitude. Because the emotion, think about how well you do when you're in a good emotional state. Think of how different the world is when you're in a good emotional state. So setting your goals in a good emotional state, for me, is really important. Because if you're not grateful for what you have, you'll never be grateful for what you've got. Because what you've got now would have been on some level a goal at some point in your life. So be grateful for what you have. Because things are getting taken away from you. And in the end, really, we walk away with nothing in the end. We come with nothing, we go with nothing. So being grateful is really important. So go to that place of gratuity. Being grateful. And the more grateful you are for what you've got, the better chance you've got of getting what you want. Okay? The mind works in mysterious ways. And that's another story for another day. But what I would say is think about some of the stuff you've done really, really well. The things you've achieved in the past, whether they're conscious goals or not conscious goals, there's a very good chance you're in a good state emotionally. So if you pass a test at uni or college or your driving test, you would have been in an emotional state, which helped you to get through that. So the A is for attainable. What do we mean by attainable? Well, if you want to reduce weight by 3 stone and go from, say, 15 stone to 12 stone in a week, is that really attainable? Well, physiologically, I doubt it. I doubt it. Now, there's certain people who can make certain claims and so on and so forth, yet physiologically, in the way I understand weight reduction works, I wouldn't have thought it was a good idea. I would think it's a better idea to go see a professional, being a personal trainer, and do things in the right way, make a lifestyle change. Yeah, what I would say, which is really important from this aspect, is getting to that emotional state. The attainable, it can be quite a grey area, because there are certain things people do don't really make sense. So we've seen stories and read stories about, for example, a grandmother once had run outside and her grandson was trapped under a car, and she lifted the car, the grandson, to get out of the car, from underneath the car. And later in an interview, she went on to say, obviously she was happy to have saved her grandson's life, but she said that one of the things she regretted, and you can read it, it's an old newspaper I found on Google once, Margaret Shaw. She talked about the things she could have done if she had believed in herself a lot earlier. That's not to say that we're going to go around lifting cars, but the point I'm trying to make is that what's achieved, what's not achieved. The only reason I say that from an attainability point of view, it takes effort, practice and desire. Is it attainable? If you've never played golf before, it might be a big stretch to expect to be the best golfer in the world in a week. If you've never played football before, it might be a big stretch. If you're just starting a business, it might be a big stretch to have a multi-million-pound business in a week or so. I'm not saying it's not possible. All things are possible to a certain extent, one would imagine. We don't really know what's possible, even the possibilities, but the attainability here is a little bit of common sense, really. Because what we don't want to do is set ourselves up to fail, and that's one of the things where it's trial and error and learn and failure feedback, because ultimately in the end you can set a huge goal and always scale back if you choose to, but what I would say is that if you push yourself more than you can tolerate and you go for that single swim approach, there's a very good chance that you'll just end up sinking, the way the mind works. So it might be an idea to just incrementally extend the comfort zone, step by step, one step at a time, rather than take 5 steps forward and 7 back, go one step, one step. So when this is concerned, the attainable, use your common sense, because obviously there's other permutations in life as well, and talk to people, get your head around things, and you can always adjust your sales. Always adjust your sales. I'm not saying to talk anyone out of their goals or talk yourself out of the goal. Use this as a way, a barometer. It's quite useful to have that. The attainability is useful for me to have that. The next part we're going to look at is a really important part of the goal too. For me, is using our senses. So the S is for your senses. What you see, hear and feel when you've got the goal. So think of the goal you wrote earlier. Think of the goal you wrote earlier that you want, or any goal that you want for that matter. Now close your eyes, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, and imagine having the goal. Really feel it. Feel it. So feel what it would be like to have that career goal, the health goal, the academic goal, the relationship goal, playing instrument, writing a best-selling book, whatever the goal is that you want. Really feel it. Notice what the feelings are. Now, what will you see? The colours and sounds and so on and so forth. Really connect to it. I could never have imagined in my life a Stephen Jobs or a Leonardo da Vinci or whatever setting a smart goal. Now, I'm not against setting smart goals, grow goals or whatever. Yet, I think what they're lacking sometimes is the feeling. You know, draw the feeling in. Feel it. Feel the goal. Feel it. You know when you see these sports people talk, you see them talk about when they scored a winning goal at a big stadium, and they say, I dreamt it as a 12-year-old, I dreamt it, I was perfect, you know. They really feel the goal. Feel it. Feel the goal. When you see the sports person win the gold medal, I dreamt it. I dreamt it. As a young person, they say, I dreamt it. I dreamt it, the stadium roaring, the crowd, and really, really feel it. You know, really feel it. You know, feel it within, with some nice intensity. Feel it. You know, really feel the goal. Okay? So I wanted to think of the goal that you want and really feel the goal. Really feel it. What will it feel like? Not counting again, you don't want to go for, but that for me is a key part. And I remember doing the seminar once to hundreds of people, and this guy said he wants a relationship. That was one of his goals, to meet someone. He'd been broken up for two years or so. And I said, feel what it would be like to be with the person you want to be with, he goes, Jim, well, that's idealistic. It's absurd, Jim. It's absurd, he says. It's ridiculous. How can I feel what it's like to be, relationship with the person I want to be in? It's ridiculous. I said, what sort of person do you want to be with? And he goes, I want someone who's vibrant, who's energetic, who's vivacious, who's out there, and so on and so forth. I said, well, quit being a miserable bastard, and you might draw someone in. You're hardly going to find someone like that, like this. The victim. Now I know we all go through stuff, and he went through stuff, and I'm not undermining him, and I've been through my fair share too, by the way. But what I'm saying is that you go there first. If you want the goal. If you're a teacher, you want to motivate your students, then you be motivated first. If you're a parent, you want to motivate your children, then you go there first. For example, if you want your children to be in shape, then you lead the way. That's leadership. If you want your children not to smoke, then don't smoke. Leadership is important. If you're a manager of staff, lead your staff. You go there first. You lead the way. Okay? Feel it. Feel the goal. See it. Have it. Okay? It's yours. That's the S in the acronym. The E in the acronym is what we call ecology. The E. Okay? The E is what we call ecology. Well, what's ecology, you're probably saying now? What's that? It's NLP term. It's a neuro-linguistic programming term. If you haven't done NLP before, you can email me. I'll send you a free book that I've written. It was a bestseller, Change Your Life. I'll email you so you understand a little bit more about NLP. And ecology is the consequences, really. That's what it means, consequences of goal. Everything has its price, isn't it? If you've got a young family, you set a goal of a new business, it might mean less time with your family now. It might mean providing a better life for your young family when they graduate from uni. Or it might be providing a better life for your family, an opportunity for your children to go to uni. It might be an opportunity to set your children up in business, or provide your wife or your husband a better life. So everything's got a price. I think some people like the idea. They like the idea of doing stuff. And I worked in football at the highest level and still work with many people in sport and football at the highest level now. A lot of people like the idea of it. They like the idea of swanning around. Hey, look at me! I'm a footballer, Look at me with the house and the car and the model girlfriend. They like that, but they didn't want to get up in the morning and train. They like the idea of it. And lots of people like the idea of it, they didn't want it. The best sports people I've worked with would play football, for example, for free. They love it so much. The fact they make a lot of money out of it, some of them, fair play to them. That's the market. That's the way the market works. I'm not saying right or wrong, it's the market. What I'm saying is love the idea, the ecology, you've got to want it. So you can do even the cost-benefit analysis. The negative consequences of achieving the goal, short-term, long-term, positives of achieving it, short-term, long-term, and so on and so forth. And you might say, well, I could talk myself out going for the goal by doing that. Well, you could do, and you could save yourself a lot of time and effort, because it might not be the right time. For one reason or the other, you might just have a baby. Because you've had a baby, it's just not the right time to start a business. It might be okay, you want to get back in shape again physically, and you consider going to a gym, you're struggling going to the gym because of time. So you decide, well, actually, what I'll do differently is do some running or something different, or work on what I eat. So the ecology, really the consequences. You can even do a cost-benefit analysis at a point. But you can look at the greater, bigger picture too. The impact it has on people, on your friends, on your family, in going for the goal and achieving the goal. You can imagine having the goal now. If you have the goal now, what would it be like? So these are things you can sort of cross-examine the goal if you decide to, the consequences of going for the goal. Because if your heart's not in it, then you're not going to get very far in a goal. And I remember once I was working with this woman, and she was in her 50s, and she wanted to get back into work and get back into education and do some studies. And we sat down in some goals, and she was a very bright, wonderful person, magnificent person. And she told me that she had three boys. They all, pretty much grown up, and two were going to uni, I think, and one was on the way towards going to uni. And she'd been married for a long time. And every time she talked about her goals, her family would be dismissive of the goal. Every time she said, I want to study again and I want to get back into work, it's like, why do you want to do that for? What's the point? What's the point of doing that for? And blah, blah, blah. And she felt in her own mind that actually, you know what? She said, no, not my words, in her words. She goes, you know what? I'll just know my place. And her husband would say, well, why do you want that for? And the kids, well, why do you want that for? But she really wanted to go to uni. She really wanted to get back into work for one reason or the other. And it was personal to her. So in one session, what I did is I got these chairs to do an exercise with her, and I said, okay, imagine your three boys sitting in one of the chairs and your husband there, and anybody else in any other chairs that are influential or integral part in you going for the goal, and have this conversation with them. Because in the past, whenever she decided and spoke about going for the goal, she'd get shut down straight away. Well, do you want that? What's the point? What's the point at your age? And blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You know, and so on and so forth. Well, ultimately, in the end, you know, 50 is no age. Any age is no age. You know, what the heck? You know, any age you can go for anything. If that's what you really want to do. So she had this conversation with the hypothesis, the boys and her husband, and so on and so forth. And she had these realizations, and she told me that when she went home that evening, the conversation she had with the boys was different. You know, she literally wiped these boys' backside since day one, and was there, and you know, still cooking for them, and still washing for them, and still doing all the stuff for them. And even though they'd been to uni, and one was sort of in work as well, she was still flipping, you know, doing the things. The husband would come home and make him tea, and you know, still doing all the stuff that. And she said, she spoke to them and said, well, actually, you know what? I've been doing all this stuff for you for all these years. I'm going to do something for me. Respect that. I'm doing something for me. Respect that. And where all this is concerned, sometimes communication is key. Okay? She's a very articulate, bright woman. A very bright woman who was a phenomenal wife and mum. And being a mum is probably the most challenging job anyone could ever imagine. Being a mum is being a nutritionist, psychiatrist. Being a mum is more than being a mum. We undermine people sometimes in our silly society. We don't realise. We place so much value in our professional existence. We forget that actually, you know what? There are things that are much more important. And we can undermine that. And being a mum, from that point of view, identity point of view, is a phenomenon. If you can do that, and you can bring up three lads to be good citizens and be a great person, a rock for the husband all those years, then that in itself is a phenomenon, really. And ultimately, and she had this conversation, just had it out, and then when she went back, it was a calm conversation. She put her point across. So sometimes with the ecology, the consequences, you talk to the people involved. Ultimately, in the end, because it will have an impact on their life. Of course, it's going to impact on her. It's going to impact on their life to a point, because it might mean she couldn't wash the clothes as often as she did for the young lads who learn to do it yourself, lads. It might mean that, okay, some of the things that she would do, she wouldn't do anymore. But hang on a second here. You know, this woman has done it for a long time. You know, 30s or so is a long time. Dude, hey, if she wants to do something for herself, hang on, you know. No need to shut people down. There's no need for it. So those of you who've got people in your family who want goals, talk to them. Talk to them. Don't have to shut people down, okay? Talk to them and speak about it. It might not be the right time, it might be the right time. And ultimately, yeah, she went there and they talked about it and they agreed. They agreed they were being a little bit selfish by shutting her down and said, you know what? Yeah, we can pitch in. We can do the washing. We can cook a meal. We can do some stuff as well. Okay? If that's what you want to do, we can do stuff too. That can be done. And that's where this is concerned, the ecology. Okay? Which is a quite useful process. So the E is the ecology. The R, and the final piece of the jigsaw, is resources and road ahead. Okay? The resources and road. And think about the resources you've got to achieve the goal. The resources you have to achieve the goal. Think about the resources you've got to achieve the goal. That could be anything from a mobile phone to your brain, your mind. Many resources you've got to achieve the goal. The car. Many things you've got from a resource point of view. And we're going to talk about resources. I was doing a talk once in the school, and I was talking about setting goals. And one of the teachers said to me, he goes, well, that's idealistic, Jim. You're telling these kids they can do anything. I said, well, I'm not telling them they can do anything or can't do anything. I'm just telling them that things are possible. Be focused. And this was a school, it was a good college, actually, a really, really good college. And it had some deprivation as well, to a point. And we ran a program, it was a fantastic program. And the program was it was a mentorship. It was a mentorship with Manchester Airport, with some really, really good people at the airport who were going to mentor some young people at college who hadn't been in education employment, some forever, some social conditioning. They'd never seen anyone work in their family for generations upon generations. So the idea was to introduce them into a program with some key airport staff, and that might rub off on them, and they might get into employment on some level, whatever that employment was. And I did a talk one day, and I talked about goals and having a vision for yourself and creating a vision for yourself. And one of the young people said to me, well, Jim, that, you know, and the teacher actually said, the room gets idealistic. You're giving him this false hope. I said, what do you mean? And one of the young person said, I'll tell you what the teacher means. He goes, well, it's not easy. This was a few years ago, going through the recession. He goes, it's not easy out there. There's no jobs and so on and so forth. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, do you not read the papers? I go, well, I do occasionally, but not very often. But I said to him, my response to him was, you know what? If you were born 100 years ago, imagine what life would have been like. You got World War I, you got depression, you got World War II, ration. You know, take your pick. We live in a great country. The UK is a phenomenal country. You can be anything you want to be. You can see medical for free. You can travel around Europe. You're close. You can go to university and pay the university fee back. After when you get a job, and you can do courses, you get your head down. It's a phenomenal place. You can travel to 40 cities in 2 hours. You can go across to the States in 6 hours. It's a phenomenal place. And I said, you know what? Focus on what you have, not what you don't have. I could put you in a plane and you could fly 5 hours away and you see what reality is. Where people work in some countries for £1 a day if they're lucky. Okay? So you're even getting paid to go to college. You've got this amazing program. You're getting mentored by some fantastic, phenomenal professionals. Embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace it, dude. Because you know what? That's phenomenal. So write down your resources you've got for the goal. The resources you have for the goal. Write it down. The resources you've got for the goal. And having done that, think, okay, what steps can I take? Step 1, step 2, step 3 to achieve the goal. What steps can I take to achieve it? To set you off. Because this seminar is more like a springboard to get you going if you choose to. And you can transfer this across every area. So just to go the key points of the laser approach, the first part of the acronym was list the goal, specifically what you want in the positive. List what you want in the positive, okay? Because where I said earlier, if I say don't think of lose you up, what do you think of? Precisely. So list what you want, okay? The wage, money, house, whatever you want, list what you want. The way you want to be, whatever, be very specific. The A stands for attainable. Make an assessment of where you are, where you want to be. Speak to people who are there, model them, talk to them, get your head around it, think, okay, am I putting too much pressure on myself by setting my target too early, or am I setting it too far away? Adjust your sails, okay? Set a time frame. It might be, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 months to be that weight, or a year to start that business, whatever it might be. It might be the phase of my employment to go into business. I'm going to give myself 2 years. So really think about that in that way. The S was for senses. Feel it. Remember your goal. Feel having the goal. Feel having that relationship. Feel having that career. Feel having whatever it is that you want to have. Feel it. Feel it. Okay? Ecology, the consequence of the goal. The consequences of the goal. What price will be paid for it. The impact of the people around you. Make that judgment, assessment, and talk it through to people. Communication is really important. Communication is key. But when you communicate, respect other people's model of reality, a map of the world. We don't want to communicate to the mirror, our own map of reality. We want to put that to one side and hear people out. Hear what they've got to say. Hear their opinion, their thoughts, their feelings, and have a conversation with that if you go down that road. And then the final piece of the jigsaw, the R, was the resources you've got. And to write down all the resources you've got, and also the roadmap ahead, step by step, to move forward, to go forward in the direction you want to be. and then go for it. It's a very powerful approach that you can use, and be a winner. You know, work from a frame of winning, and be a winner. What I mean by being a winner, okay, there's two ways you can see life. You can see it as a victim or a winner. Okay, the way I coach people is, I think, for me, it's 10% problem, 90% solution. Okay, focus on solution. When you're going through your goals, you're going to go through challenges, ups, downs. It won't always go the way you want it to go. Ultimately, just rest assured that you are where you need to be, and you keep going towards where you want to go. It won't always go smooth sailing no matter what you do, but ultimately go to that place of winning. And many years ago, to give you a quick example, I had a football manager phone me up, and they had like a big cup game, and they were playing one of the biggest teams in the country. And he phoned me up and he says to me, he goes, Jim, I don't know what to do. We've got 3 or 4 suspensions, got the flu, got issues, we can't postpone the game. What do we do? We're playing one of the biggest teams in the country. We're going to get battered, in true reflection of self. And I said, what you can do first of all is hang the phone up and call me back in an hour. And he called me back in an hour because he was talking about that victim mentality. And when he called back in an hour, he called back and he said, we have an amazing opportunity. I'm going to give the young players a chance to shine. There's no pressure on us. The pressure's all on them because they're one of the biggest teams and we're a lower league team. So we've got nothing to lose. We're going to enjoy it. Enjoy the occasion. And that's a whole different outlook, isn't it, on life, that. And I'm not saying that with Pollyanna, la 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 la, the world's a great place, because it's not always a great place. But what I am saying is that see it for what it is. No worse, no less. Okay? No worse, no less than what it is. And if you find yourself here in that victim mentality, then get out of it. Get out of it. And if you're a true friend and your friend's going that victim mentality, then shift them out of it. Shift them out of it. It's not a good place to stay in that victim. Not a good place to be in that victim. Because in my experience in life, the people who do well are the ones who have got the ability, and I've been very fortunate to work with many, many people across a broad range of areas, to go to that mindset. They're not the most fortunate people, they're not the most gifted people, they're not the most anything really. They just work out that framework. And there's some stories that I've come across and people that I've spoken to, and it's really, really powerful stuff. And you go on YouTube, one of the speakers I had at one of our events, who I know, I've known for many years, Adrian, you can check it out on YouTube. He came and spoke at the event. Listen to his story. Listen to his story. He's a guy that literally, and here's a story. You can listen on YouTube. He might send a story. Literally overnight, he woke up one day and he's in a hospital. And he's in this hospital, and I don't know what's going on. And I'm not medically qualified. And I'm using my words, not his. But you can watch the story on YouTube. And he talked about having this like a chemical meningitis, and literally that gave him a week or so to live. From my understanding, but watch the clip and you'll see he talks about it in more detail. And he got through that week, and having got through that week, and he won't be showing the story because you can see it on YouTube. He spoke for that one of the events, and he got through the week. Eventually, he gets to go home, and you know, tragically, well, we say tragically, but he bounced back. He was confined to a wheelchair, and after a few months of being at home, he decides to go out of the house, and he goes out of the house. And the first thing that happens, or one of the first time he goes out of the house, is these idiots in a van pull up and throw a Big Mac at him and call him a cripple. And that sort of knocked his confidence, and he ended up staying inside for a long time. And he talked about how there wasn't a great deal of support for him from a psychological point of view. But he turned his attention to and he was a positive person anyway, but he turned his attention to stuff like NLP and other stuff like that. I'm suggesting that's what helped him get through it. But he had that winning mentality. And he focused, and he got into sport, he got into fencing, he'd won gold, the 2-2 gold, and something along them lines at the 2012 Paralympic in fencing. And then long after that, ironically, it was going to go to the next Olympics. He had people broke into his home and steal all his equipment. It's really expensive equipment. Having stolen his equipment, he decided that he wasn't going to compete no more. And what does he do? He goes to schools and does talks on hate crime. Phenomenal, listen, phenomenal. Winner. Adrian, if you're watching, you're a winner, dude. Winner, man. And that's what it's all about. Because not what happens, it's not what happens, how we react to what happens. And the human spirit is strong. And it is a strong human spirit. We can always be the victim. You know, we can always be the victim. Think about what you have and appreciate what you've got, and go to that place of gratitude, It's powerful stuff. And watch that video if you can, dude. You got time. Good watch, definitely. That's all we've got time for this evening. Been a phenomenal evening. Really enjoyed it. Email me, Jimmy Petruzzi. Email me at info@excelnlp.com. That's info@excelnlp.com. info@excelnlp.com. Got any resources? I can send you ebook, resources, whatever you need. The template for the goal setting structure. Email me. I'm more than happy to help you in any way I can. Been a phenomenal evening. Till next time, live with passion. Woo!